because this was something that we wanted to design alongside Girl DM in order to be a really versatile knife that anyone could use. So in Girl DM's Nikiri, what we did is utilize a more Western style handle, which is a little bit more universal and allows kind of multiple different styles of grip. Not that the octagonal wah handle doesn't, but it just gives it a little bit more familiarity for people who might not be used to something like the octagonal wah handle. This handle actually went through quite a few different iterations. It used to be a little bit longer, but that actually brought the balance a little bit too far back. In terms of how we ended up wanting to balance the knife is we did actually want to balance it pretty much perfectly in the middle. So as you can see, this one, I could not do that. Let me try not slicing off my fingers. Try that, but that's just not gonna happen. But we did want to balance the knife so that there was about the same weight and material along this, and this is a smaller knife in general for smaller hands, so Girl DM sized hands. This also takes into account what size we end up wanting to make the knife from the blade to the handle and how the balance points are going to be. So for instance, this knife over here, this traditional Nikiri, is going to be a little bit more blade heavy. Like I said, this one's a little on the thicker side. So you're gonna see this is, the balance point of this is right about there, right? So it is definitely more towards the blade, so that is very blade heavy. And so some considerations we've made in order to have it a smaller knife and more comfortable for smaller hands, but still be able to be used for other size hands is, for instance, my hands are, pretty big, right? I need large size mice. I like larger knives and things like that just because my hands tend to be larger. And on this handle design here, what you'll be able to see is that this cuts in this angle instead. Normally it's opposite that way. And what ends up happening is that you can hold it a little bit higher over here, and that allows people who have larger hands to still be able to handle the knife. So you can see that even though I have larger hands, I'm still able to hold the knife with a pinch grip, and I'm still able to use it just fine, right? Some other considerations about the design that we had to think about was on the shape of the handle and how to design the shape of the handle to accommodate for multiple different kinds of grips. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say this, but if you're doing anything but a pinch grip, then which is pinching directly on the blade itself. So we have a nice little heart ahoge here. This is where you should be pinching. And that is where you should be pinching in order to control the blade the best. This is the proper knife technique used by chefs. It gives you the most control, keeps your fingers out of the way, and lets you use basically any knife and not have any problems. But I know that might not be the case for a lot of people, and it is very difficult to relearn a knife technique after something that you've been doing for years, decades, maybe even. We do have the standard ergonomic curves, so if you do a hammer grip, then this will still work for you. Not if you have large hands. If you have hammer grip, unfortunately this knife will not be very good for you, but also stop using hammer grip. Learn the pinch grip, especially if you have large hands. This will help you control the knife significantly better. I know some people also pinch on the handle itself over here. And by doing the backwards cut, it allows people to, okay, I'm gonna say it. By having a little bit of the backwards cut, it does actually slide your fingers onto the blade, so it kind of encourages you to utilize the right knife technique. I'm just saying, do the right grip. In terms of material, for Girl DM's AI theme and kind of the magical aspect of things, we settled on a very special material that I had to get custom made and custom sourced. It's called C-Tech, or if you want to be like, super, I guess, technical about it, it would be aluminum honeycomb encased resin, or resin encased aluminum honeycomb. Yeah, one of those. And why I really like that is that the aluminum not only gives it a very strong base, the aluminum gives it a very strong base, and the resin can be used in all kinds of different colors in order to give it different shades. And it just looks really cool. Nikiris are meant as vegetable knives and for kind of general purpose kitchen use, but a lot of the predetermined shape meant that there had to be other considerations in terms of detail work on what the design was going to be. We wanted to stay away from something like this, which is Blue 2. Blue 2 is a very, very good steel. It is very sharp, it sharpens easily, and it keeps its edge pretty well. It does, however, have some issues in, for instance, stain resistance. So this one I did get very recently, and you can see there's already gonna be a little bit of staining. And after every use, you do need to oil it, and it gets rusty really easily. Like if you're chopping for a long time with something like blue steel, and you do need to be chopping, say, acidic fruits or just something that just takes you a long time, then in my experience, it can actually start rusting and start having like surface staining while you're using it, which is something that, you know, we really did not want to happen. This is something that can be mitigated by, taking care of the knife as you're using it. So, wiping it off, giving a quick little polish with oil and that sort of stuff, but that just kind of becomes a pain. So when we were selecting the steel, we did end up selecting VG10 because VG10, in my opinion, is just one of the best steels for kitchen knives. It is very stainless, so it has very high chromium content. Stainless steel is stainless because of the chromium content, and chromium specifically, anything above 13%, is considered stainless. VG10 is actually 15%, so it makes it have a very good stain resistance. And not only that, but it also takes a very good edge and keeps a very good edge. And it's very readily available. Something like MagnaCut would be like the holy grail of knife steels right now. It's very popular, but it is extraordinarily expensive, extraordinarily hard to work with. VG10 also does have the ability to be sharpened very quickly and easily while holding a good edge and keeping an edge for a very long time. And that is kind of the difference between edge retention and hardness and then machinability. Machinability is kind of like how easy it is for machines and equipment to shape the knife and sharpen the knife and things like that, versus edge retention would be how long the edge actually lasts. And that's a whole other, I'm not gonna get too deep into that. That gets into chemistry and edge geometry and all this other stuff. We'll talk about that some other day, maybe, probably, like knowing me, yes. That's why we ended up using VG10. Great steel. It's very hard to find another steel that can beat it. In the end, I think the mass majority of people who are going to be using knives are also just not going to be able to tell the difference between VG10 and S35VN and S10 and MagnaCut and CPM M4, so on and so forth. This knife is designed to be a little bit lighter and easier to work with. That way it doesn't fatigue your hands over a long period of use as well. So it is thinner around the spine and also towards the blade. One of the considerations we had in terms of the blade design is that I don't think I'm gonna be able to get this on camera very well. My camera's just not good enough. So the kind of grind that we used is not strictly like a flat V grind all the way up to the spine. Because blade thinness and geometry can do a lot with how this actually ends up going through food, we wanted it to have a lot of strength while going through some of the thicker things. Don't slam this knife on things. You just shouldn't slam knives on things or like twist them at all in general. But the way we did have the blade designed here was to have a little bit more strength behind the edge. That way, and I'll try to see if I can zoom in and get a micro shot of these two side by side. This one does utilize more of a hollow grind, so you can see it goes in a little bit more and a little bit earlier. The way that we've designed this, if you look at the spines, this is significantly thinner. So we opted with the best of both worlds, in my opinion, which is going to be a thinner overall blade, but having the grind set a little bit lower, so we still are able to get that really keen, really sharp edge. On the blade shape design, we did something very traditional. So it is a very flat blade. We do have a little bit of arch over here, so you can do a tiny bit of rock chopping. And then we just flared out the base on the back over here in order to make it so you don't have as many hanging cuts. Because I know a lot of times when you're cutting, if you're holding the knife, if it's straight flat like this, well, this one has a little bit of flare back as well, but a lot of Nikira are just straight flat. They'll leave some hanging cuts, and that can be a little frustrating to work with. So I think I honestly don't know how I'm gonna edit this into a coherent video. I've been talking for so long. There are more things I wanna talk about, but I think that's probably enough for now. So that's a little bit of what we designed for Girl DM's Nikiri and some of the design considerations on the materials, the shape and technical stats like that. And next time I'll talk about how we did the custom heart Damascus and the little cutouts and other little design aspects of this knife in terms of aesthetics and fitting it to Girl DM's lore and her character. You know when you just accidentally leave your knives in your 5-gallon bucket of mayo? I know, it happens everyone, it happens all the time. Nothing you can do about it, so we designed for it, right? These are some of the prototypes that we have used for the Girl DM knife. This was actually the first variation. I wanted to do a little bit more on the back edge over here, but as you can see, this definitely got a little too sharp, and that would kind of be dangerous and chip off a lot, and you could easily hit your finger. So on the second iteration, we did end up cutting it back.
What was on? Real prayers. I didn't do it.
There's just gonna be a reel of just me dropping stuff. It's fine, don't worry. All right, so Girl DM knife, yeah, V1.0 over here. This isn't actually V1.0. V1.0 we actually sent directly to Girl DM, so it's not here. The Heart Damascus was surprisingly not quite as difficult as you might seem to think. Yes, this is Damascus. This is VG10, clad in Damascus, 67 layers, and anyone who's like, it's not Damascus, it's actually, this is pattern mother, whatever. Industry terms say this is Damascus. So if you're still arguing that, oh yeah, it's not because we haven't ever found Damascus, like, dude, Woots is a marketing term from 2,000 years ago. You're literally falling for a marketing scheme 2,000 years ago. I beg you to stop. Anyway, this is not exactly, done with the VG10 completely folded in, otherwise we wouldn't get as good of an edge. So it is actually clad, and that means that these two layers are actually forge welded onto the core of VG10 itself. The outside is actually a Sus 420. No one really talks about that steel too much because it is primarily just a high nickel steel that is very stain resistant in order to provide the kind of patterning. How Damascus patterning is done is basically what you do with these kind of steels is you get one steel that will have a quicker and easier, I should be showing off the actual Girl DM knife during this, not the prototypes. So let's rewind it. But here, so let me actually open the box. So this is actually the box that we designed for it. Remember the stuff about the Damascus, I'm gonna come back to it later. This is the Girl DM box. It is, mine is a little scuffed up because I've been playing with it, but it's got cute little art. It is magnetic, so it's fun to play with. Anyway, you open it up and you actually get a nice, little knife sheath with it. You also get this foam protector. You can't carry it in the box. Please, if you're going to put it back in the box, dry the knife before it goes back in the box. Honestly, that's gonna be more for the sake of the box not getting moldy than your knife, and I will show you that in a second. But cool thing about this sheath actually is that we did a little cutout over here in which when you put it in, ta-da, you still see the heart. It's not perfect all the time, but mostly if we had it perfect all the time, then some of the spines would stick out a little bit. So we figured it's a little better to have the knife actually more secure and have a little bit more room for error so that your knife is actually protected. That way, if you do want to put it in your drawer or your knife rack or whatever, it protects it and it protects the blade as well. With the 67 layers of Damascus, this particular patterning is done by putting different kinds of steel together, one that is more stainless and one that is less. And so when you push them together and twist them and fold them, and then you put them into acid or some kind of staining solution, then they will stain at different rates. How you get different patterns is dependent completely on how you fold those steels together. If you look carefully at how the heart patterns are shaped, and what we had them do in order to get this kind of pattern done is instead of just doing one billet together, what you can see we have the standard kind of billeting, and you can see kind of the layers over here. That's just going to be the different steels stacked on top of each other. In between those layers, you would put rods. So I'm gonna use knives for this. But instead of just having everything stacked like this, right? What we do is we actually have rods that are stacked this way as well, and then more on top and so on and so forth. And what that actually does is allow you to get these kind of patterns. And so this is actually a fairly simple, you would just do like bands of different steels wrapped around each other in a circle. But, oh God, too many knives. But on these patterns, what you end up doing is you get all of these small little billets of steel and all these thin little wraps together, and then you put them interlaced alongside your regular stack. After you get all the little ones together, then you have them drive a hammer down the middle in order to get the heart shape down here, as well as across the sides in order to get the little V of the heart here as well. And then you just do that with a lot of little ones. And the nice thing is, because of how these are cut, if you actually think about it from a 3D plane, this ends up actually becoming, you have the really, really long billet. So you only have to do that like not that many times, and then you cut from those in order to clad onto the VG10 core, which is the cutting core that the actual edge is made out of. One of the nicest things about how this kind of Damascus is made, and why it's really, really nice in these kind of knives that are meant for home kitchen use and kind of versatility, is they don't need to be cared for nearly as much as like a Japanese knife. So for instance, this is the standard Nikiri. You can see that there is a lot of rust spots. There's some problems here. We have staining. I've actually managed to patina this at this point with the, I'll show you what ended up happening to this knife, but tons of rust spots, patina, staining, and this will end up causing pitting and actually damage to the knife and edge over time as you don't wipe it and clean it. And we all forget to clean things. That's normal. While I might be very, very fastidious about cleaning my knives and, you know, doing that sort of stuff because I am a knife nerd, I know that other people might not be. So what we really want to design for in these kind of knives is so that you don't have to worry about your knife. You don't have to like baby it all the time and go, oh God, I need to do this and do that, and then just like be really careful about how fragile it is. I'm personally not a huge fan of having to keep knives or anything that I use constantly babied all the time. I want to be able to use it and be able to go on with my life. I don't want to have to cut out a brand new hour of my life every time I use this thing that's supposed to help me, and it's instead slowing me down in life. If that is something that you enjoy in knife care and things like that, in which you want to get into knife sharpening and maintenance and restoration, things like that, that's great. That's a hobby, right? But this is a knife meant for cooking. We actually did a test in order to see how stainless this really is. So what we did was make a batch of all the leftovers and other random stuff that needed to be thrown away, put it in a bucket, and then we stuck the knives in to see what would happen. Left it for 9 hours, so overnight, presumably. So first of all, guys, don't leave knives in the sink. That's how you will accidentally grab a knife and then cut your fingers, so just don't do that. That being said, if you do end up leaving knives in the sink, we want to show that you don't have to be worried that at least the knife is gonna be damaged. I'm worried about your fingers if you do that. So these are the 3 knives that actually came out of the test. And what you can see is that this knife has, we already have the surface staining and rusting. Oh, it smells really terrible. You could smell the rust when it came out as well. You can see that rust here. You can see the brown spots. You can see it's not in the best shape. Even the blackening over here is starting to degrade, and this is just from one night, right? One accidental thing. You do it 2 times, 3 times, you're gonna do a lot of damage to the knife. You know when you just accidentally leave your knives in your 5-gallon bucket of mayo? I know, it happens everyone. It happens all the time. Nothing you can do about it, so we designed for it, right? accidentally leave it in the sink with your dishes or leave it in the bucket of mayo, and we still have no staining whatsoever. We have nothing going on. What you will see, however, and I do want to point this out, is that this here, this marking is also etched on. So what that means is that you put it in too much acid, it will come off like this, that you can see. So that is the only part that will come off if you leave it in acid or in dishwater, anything like that too long. But otherwise, the rest of the knife, perfectly fine. It looks like it's brand new. Having this outside layer be clad in this very, very, very stainless steel means that we can actually utilize the best of both worlds to have a very, very good edge, have a very, very good knife, but still have all those stainless properties that make it very easy to take care of. You don't need to baby it. Ooh, actually, let me go to the microscope here. So you can see tons of rust spots. That surface is not looking too hot. We're starting to see that's going to be eating into the steel. You can see that 3D kind of effect going on. That means the steel is turning into rust, which is iron oxide instead, which is when iron, which is part of steel, interacts with oxygen. Okay, I'm gonna get a little nerdy into this as we look at the other knives. Oh, that's pretty cool. Look at that. You can actually see where the less stained parts are forming on the heart pattern as well. No staining, no rust spots. That looks beautiful, like it was just made. Fun fact, this is actually the second time I've put this through that test. I mean, you shouldn't do that. Don't do that. Don't leave your knives in the sink. Please wash them and dry them properly. But if you mess up 1 or 2 times, or a couple times, it's fine. In terms of designing the Girl DM knife on how we want to represent the C-Tech handle as well, is we actually selected a special kind of C-Tech that has little bits of glow in them as well. They have little dots of lighter material that gets put into that. We decided to go with like a lighter color and lighter theme because it kind of gives it this sort of magical glow and magical energy to it. While C-Tech has that honeycomb design that's very tech focused, and it has this sort of blend between tech, AI, magical girl, which is, you know, Girl DM's theme. The C-Tech handle was designed with that in mind. We were originally using this color and we were like going back and forth on multiple different colors. I think we have one more color set besides this that we tried, and that one was like a little bit too much towards the blue side. I would say there wasn't a specific reason why we decided on going for full tang. I just think it looks nice on this particular knife. I think that just kind of keeps with this this kind of flow of the metal, especially with the honeycombs along the side. So the idea of tangs is sort of a outside myth. I would say having a full tang or a skeletonized tang is very important if we're talking about outdoors knives. So knives that you need to baton through wood, knives that you need to do heavy duty kind of like chopping and like smashing through logs and, you know, make campfires with like that kind of survivalist sort of thing. Kitchen knives, I think I discussed already, you should not be, you know, slamming down on things. These are for cutting, not for slamming and chopping and that kind of stuff. This is a thin blade. It's meant for cutting, not for smashing on things. Get a butcher knife for that. It is a nice Japanese Nakiri made in Japan. It has a very thin little piece of metal in here. That's all that's needed to keep it in the wood. You don't need any more than that, because if you're hitting it hard enough that you are breaking the spine of the blade, honestly, you have other problems. You're probably using the wrong kind of knife for that. I mostly want to mention that because this tang in particular was an aesthetic choice, not a utilitarian choice. And I do want to dispel that rumor that full tangs are better in some way, shape, or form. Unless you want to die on the hill for some reason that Japanese knives are just like way worse than any other knife in existence because they have a smaller tang. Look guys, it's not about the size, it's about how you use it. One of the things that Girl DM also requested was a little heart cutout over here. This usually goes onto butcher knives so that they can hang by the wall. One of the original designs I actually had like the ears on the knife itself. And then we did decide that was a little too impractical and could potentially, if you're doing 4-finger grip or you put your hand down, it could potentially cut you. So we're like, okay, well, let's do a cutout like this instead. Also, I guess that also means that you can hang the knife if you hang knives for some reason or the other. And so that's kind of the general design aesthetics and a lot of the ideas that went behind how we wanted to construct Girl DM's knife. We wanted to make it something special, something cute, something that really had her characteristics and her color, and you could very much tell was designed for her. One of the things I don't really want to be doing ever is to just see a random knife and go, yep, slap a name on it, we're good to go. Every knife and every single thing that we produce like this, I want to be truly custom. Everything from the materials, the shape, the balance, the use cases, everything that we do like this, kind of like Ramen, right? Why we had to start our own facility and why we had to start everything was because we wanted everything to be the right way that we thought it should be done. And similarly for these knives and for a lot of the other things that we do and we're producing, other merchandise, other items, we want it to be designed in a way that really speaks to what the partner wants, to their lore, their character, their history. When you get the Girl DM Nikiri, you can be confident that this knife was made custom. It was truly made in collaboration, in partnership, in the truest of senses of designing alongside the creator, not just slapping a logo on, really doing everything that we can to provide everything that is possible in our power. They're not easy to make. Trying to get something fully custom with all the design details and everything, single thing, I'm pretty sure the factory is very, very sick of me constantly saying, no, we need to do it this way. We need to do it this way. Look, we're in that regard, we're a bit of a pain in the ass. I understand, but it's so incredibly important to us to be doing the right things, to be making things that are like actually cool, actually lasting, useful, and will be something that you can be using and will be in your life constantly for hopefully generations. I don't think there is another, well, I know there's not another knife like this in the world. Why I love doing these things so much, from building knives to designing flavors and all of these things that we have been doing with Vite, the fact that we can express and do storytelling through the design of this knife itself is hopefully something that you can tell that we have worked really hard on. To end this again, I have no idea how to end this. So I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna end this. We're gonna have a more fun video coming out as well. That's not quite as rambly, nerdy, and just the usual kind of stupid, funny videos that we do. But if you did enjoy this video and you did enjoy these kind of explanations, then let me know and I'll start doing more of them, I guess.